Welcome back to my channel. So today we'll continue second half part of control and coordination. Beginning with one of the most important sense organ, that is eye. It is made up of three layers. The outer layer, which is known as sclera, the inner layer, which is in red color, which is known as choroid layer, and the last yellow color layer, which is known as retina. Now let's see the first layer, which is sclera, which is the white outer layer of the eyeball, as you can see over here. Now this sclera on the eyeball gets continued as cornea, which has no blood supply but has lots of nerve endings. So whenever you touch your eyes, you get a pain. This is because the cornea has very much nerve ending. The cornea is covered outside by a layer thin transparent mucous membrane, which is known as conjunctiva, that covers the eyeball. Moving on to the second layer, which is choroid layer, which is red in color. This is because it supplies blood vessels to the eye. This choroid layer anteriorly, that means in front, ends in ciliary muscles, which provide supports to the lens, and this ciliary muscle ends into suspensory ligament, as you can see over here, which also supports the lens. Now there are circular or radially arranged smooth muscles, which are known as iris, which gives color to the eye ball, and this helps in contracting and dilating the pupil, and regulates the amount of light entering into the eye. Now this part, which is round circular opening, is known as pupil, through which the light enters into the eye. Now the third layer, the innermost layer, which is retina. This layer is retina. It lines the surface and contains photoreceptors. That means the cells which are responsible for converting light into nerve impulse. And these photoreceptors are nothing but rods and cones. Optic nerve is also present in this layer. So first there are photoreceptors, followed to the photoreceptors there are optic nerve, which transmit impulse to the brain. Now there is one depression which is known as fovea centralis over here, which is a pit in the center of the retina that contains only cones, provides for the most acute vision and color sensitivity. So it contains only cones. Now there is something which is known as optic disc or blind spot, as you can see over here. The area where optic nerve attached to the retina and does not contain any photoreceptor. So this is blind spot. Now let's see the photoreceptors which are present in eyes, that are rods and cones. So the rods are the cylindrical receptors found in greater concentration on the edges of the retina. Most common type of receptors allow us to see in low light, that is in dim light, and provide for peripheral vision. Now the conical photoreceptors found in greatest concentration near the center of the retina. There are three varieties of cones, each most sensitive to the particular wavelength of light, that is blue, green and red, allow for visual acuity, matlab sharp vision and color vision. Now moving on to the fluid in eyes. So there is an aqueous humor which is present in front of the lens, which is watery fluid that provides nourishment and helps in maintaining the shape of the cornea, and found in the anterior smaller chamber of the eyes. And the vitreous humor, which is present behind the lens. So this is thick jelly-like substance that fill the larger chamber of the eye and helps to hold its spherical shape of lens. Now let's see lens. So lens is a transparent biconvex elastic structure, as you can see over here, which are suspended or supported by suspensory ligament and ciliary muscles. Now let's see the mechanism of how images form. So light falls on the retina. So whenever the light falls, these rods and cones, which are photoreceptors, get activated. Now they transmit impulse to optic nerve. Now this optic nerve transmit impulse to the brain, which is a sensory impulse. Now the brain occiput region interprets the impulse and then transmit the impulse on the retina, and hence this image is formed. Now, moving on to the ear. So the anatomy of ear structure of ear. So it is formed of three parts: external ear, inner ear, and middle ear. This is the outer ear, which is external. Then this forms the middle ear, and then the inner ear is formed. Now the external ear contains of pinna. Now this is pinna, the external part, which is also known as orisal. External auditory canal, this is the external auditory canal, and this is the tympanic membrane, which is also known as eardrum. Middle ear is formed of auditory ossicles, which are nothing but bones. These are the bones. Then oval window, this is the oval window, and this is the eustachian tube, as you can see over here. And the inner ear is formed of semicircular canal, vestibule, and cochlear. Now let's see the external ear. So it consists of pinna or orisal. So this is the external ear. So the main function is of localization of sound, that is to collect the sound. It opens into external auditory canal and it is made up of cartilage. External auditory canal, which is 2 to 2 centimeter 2.5 centimeter long. It contains few hair and wax producing sebaceous gland. Now last comes the tympanic membrane, which separates middle ear from the external auditory canal, and it is also known as eardrum. This is a transparent membrane. Moving on to the middle ear, so it is separated from external ear through an eardrum and through internal ear by an oval window, or an inner ear through an oval window. It is made up of three structures. First is auditory ossicles. Ossicles are nothing but bones. They are malleus, incus, and stapes. Then there is an oval window, and last part, which is eustachian tube, which is connected to the pharynx. Now, moving on to the inner layer, which is also known as labyrinthine, it is divided into two parts, the outer bony part and the inner membranous part. As you can see over here, the skin color, which is an outer bony part, and the inner purple color, which is membranous part. Now, it contains perilymph. Outer layer contains perilymph and inner layer contains endolymph. Okay. Now, the coiled part of the labyrinthine. Now, this coiled part, circular part, is known as cochlea, and the other part is known as vestibule. This part is known as vestibule, which contains three main parts, that is semicircular part, semicircular canals, sacules, and utricles. Now this vestibule helps in maintaining the balance, and this cochlear region helps in auditory or hearing purpose. Moving on to the important part of the ear, which is cochlea, which is mostly or the most important function is of hearing. So uncoil this cochlea, so you will get like this structure. So the outer bony layer where there is perilymph flowing, and the inner membranous layer where there is an endolymph flowing. Now on cut section or cutting this area, we will get a structure like this. So there are two membranes, Reisiner's membrane and the basilar membrane, which divides the tube into three parts. First part is scala vestibuli, second part is cochlear duct, and the third part is scala tympani. In scala tympani and in scala vestibuli, perilymph flows, and in middle layer, which is the membranous layer, endolymph flows. Now in the cochlear duct, there is a organ which is known as organ of Corti, which contains inner hairs of fine hairs which acts as a receptor, so it collects the sound. They get activated and they transmit the impulse to the cochlear nerve, and this cochlear nerve then send the impulse to the brain. Now let's see the organ of Corti, which is also known as spiral organs. So it is made up of supporting cells and hair cells. The hair cells are of two types, inner hair cells and outer hair cells. Okay. Now these hair cells are nothing but neurons, which forms the cranial number 8. The stapes which are present in middle ear is attached to the oval window, and the vibrations are causes the perilymph to vibrate, and the hair cells here transmits this vibration. So therefore the hair cells in these regions are the receptors of hearing. The vestibular cochlear nerve which takes the signals to the brain. Therefore the cochlea is where the hearing receptors are located. So the cochlea is responsible for all of the hearing of sound. However, the ear does more than just hearing. It is also responsible for balance and equilibrium. As we saw, this mechanism is done by the vestibular region. Now just let's see the mechanism of hearing. So sound waves comes to pinna. Pinna collects them, transmit to the external auditory canal, vibration in eardrum, vibration in ear ossicles, which are nothing but ear bones, then vibration in oval window, vibration in perilymph of the cochlea. Now what happens, the hair cells get vibrated. Now this generate impulse and transmitted to the auditory nerve or the cochlear nerve, and then it transmitted to the center of the brain, the auditory center, which is present in the temporal lobe. Now moving on to the endocrine system. So first let's see what are glands. An organ which secretes particular chemical substance for use in the body or for discharge into the surrounding. So there are three types of glands: endocrine, exocrine and heterocrine. So now what are exocrine glands? So exocrine glands are the glands that secrete their product into ducts. For example, sweat gland, salivary gland, mammary gland, stomach, liver, etc. So they have duct. Endocrine glands are those where the secretion are directly poured into the blood. They do not have duct. So they are ductless glands. So for example, we have pituitary gland, pancreas, thyroid glands and adrenal glands. And what are heterocrine glands? The glands that perform both exocrine and endocrine function. For example, pancreas. They have both the glands, exocrine as well as endocrine. Now let's study about endocrine system. So the endocrine glands are surrounded by capillaries. So the hormones which are released from the glands are directly poured into the bloodstreams. They are ductless glands as we discussed earlier. And now these hormones which are being discharged into the blood now moves to the target cells. Now let's see the mechanism of how hormone action takes place in the target cell. So what is their entry? How is their entry and the reaction takes place? So first is the hormones which are not lipid soluble. So what happens is when the hormones come towards the cell, target cell, they bind to the receptors. Now this binding of the receptors leads to activation of enzymes which converts ATP into cyclic AMP. Now this cyclic AMP acts as a messenger, and then the action of that hormone takes place inside the cell. So for example, if FSH is the hormone which is coming to the target cell, when it reaches the cyclic AMP, then leads to ovulatory growth or ovarian growth takes place. Okay, now second type of hormone which are lipid soluble. So what happens is they directly enter into the cell, then the internal receptors bind to the hormone and form receptor hormone complex. Now this receptor hormone complex enters into the nucleus, where they bind to DNA, and then mRNA transcription takes place, where the proteins are synthesis and the action of the hormone takes place. So these are the two types. First, where the hormones are not lipid soluble, and second, the hormones where are lipid soluble. Now the glands which we are going to study in endocrine systems are pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenal gland, pancreas and thymus. So let's begin first with pituitary gland. Now, before moving to the pituitary gland, let's see something which is known as hypothalamus, which we studied in our first video. So the main function of hypothalamus is the most important function is to link the nervous system to the endocrine system via pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is under the control of hypothalamus. So it synthesis and secretes certain neurohormones often called as hypothalamic releasing hormones, and this in turn stimulate or inhibit the secretion of pituitary hormones. So क्या होता है कि जो भी hormones pituitary के निकलते हैं वो under the control of hypothalamus रहते हैं. तो hypothalamus decide करता है कि वो hormone को stimulate करना है या तो inhibit करना है या तो बंद करना है. Now the hormones which are secreted by hypothalamus are growth hormone releasing polypeptide, thyrotropic releasing hormone, corticotropic releasing hormone, gonadotropic releasing hormone, growth hormone inhibitory hormone, prolactin inhibitory hormones. Now these are transmitted to the anterior pituitary by a hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal blood vessels. अभी ये जो भी hormones है वो control करेगा anterior pituitary के hormones को. And the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland is connected through axon fibers. अभी हम देखेंगे anterior pituitary और posterior pituitary क्या क्या होते हैं. Now this is hypothalamus and this is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is divided into two parts: anterior pituitary, which is also known as adenohypophysis, and posterior pituitary, which is also known as neurohypophysis. Anterior pituitary secretes their own hormone and they are under the control of hypothalamus. Posterior pituitary does not secrete their own hormone, but they store the hormones which are secreted from hypothalamus. Now anterior pituitary is in connection with hypothalamus to the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system. This is the portal system. And the posterior pituitary is in connection with the hypothalamus through axons. In between the anterior and posterior pituitary, there is a lobe which is known as intermediate lobe. Now let's see the hormones which are secreted by the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So for this we have a mnemonic which is the great anterior pituitary gland. So the T stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, G stands for growth hormone, A stands for adrenocorticotropic hormone, P stands for prolactin, and this G stands for follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, as these both are gonadotropic hormones. So G stands for gonadotropic hormone. Okay, now the intermediate lobe secretes melanocyte stimulating hormone, and the posterior lobe, which does not secrete but stores the hormone which are secreted from hypothalamus, that is vasopressin, which is ADH, and oxytocin. Now moving on to the first hormone, that is the growth hormone, which is also known as somatotropin, which stimulates growth, cell production and cell regeneration in humans and other animals. So what are the diseases which are related to growth hormone? Which is first is gigantism. That means in the childhood, not in adolescence, in childhood there is overproduction of growth hormone, which is characterized by tall stature and large hands and feet. Acromegaly, which means there is excessive secretion of growth hormone during adulthood. So which is characterized by broad thick nose, as you can see over here, thickening of the skin, prominent brows, that is eyebrows, and elongation and widening of the mandible, as you can see over here. And then there is something which is known as dwarfism, where there is deficiency of growth hormone. So there is shortness of stature, small genitalia and delicate extremities. Moving on to the second hormone, which is prolactin. So it plays an important role in development of mammary gland and synthesis of milk. So after pregnancy, this prolactin hormone helps in secretion of milk and which is fed to the baby. Now the third important organ, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, which stimulates the thyroid gland to produce thyroxine and triiodothyronine. Okay, and this thyroid stimulating hormone is in turn stimulated by the hormone which is secreted in the hypothalamus, that is thyrotropin releasing hormone. Moving on to the fourth hormone, which is adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is secreted by the anterior pituitary glands, and it has its effect and production in the corticosteroids, which are secreted in the adrenal glands, which we'll see in our further slides. Now the comes is the follicular stimulating hormone, which is secreted by the anterior pituitary glands, and it helps in maturation or growth of ovaries and also the uterine growth, and helps in development and formation of secondary sexual characteristics. Now luteinizing hormone, so which helps in ovulation and formation of corpus luteum, which we saw in menstrual cycle. In men, it stimulates the production of testosterone. In these cells are known as interstitial cell stimulating hormone. So they are not said as luteinizing hormone in male, but they are said as interstitial cell stimulating hormone. Now moving on to the intermediate lobe, which secretes melanocyte stimulating hormone. So this melanocyte stimulating hormone, they go and stimulate the skin cells, which are melanocytes, for production of melanin, which gives color to the skin and hairs. Posterior pituitary stores two hormones. First is oxytocin and ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone. Now this antidiuretic hormone acts on kidneys, and this oxytocin acts on uterus. Okay, now antidiuretic hormones are secreted by the hypothalamus in the cell called as supraoptic nucleus. Now let's see the functions of antidiuretic hormone. So there are two main functions. First is to retain water in the body and to constrict the blood vessels. So it acts on the kidney and it retains or it reabsorbs the water from the urine. So it prevents dehydration. Now the disease related to ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone, is, so if there is a lack of ADH, this leads to diabetes insipidus. So in this condition, it is characterized by excessive thirst and excretion of large amount of fluid in the urine. So this happens because main function is to retain the water, but because of lack of ADH, more water is lost in the urine, and this leads to diabetes insipidus. Moving on to the second hormone, which is oxytocin, which is synthesis in hypothalamus and stored in the posterior pituitary, as we discussed earlier. So it causes contraction of the mammary glands to produce milk. It also causes contraction of smooth muscle in uterus, so that there is delivery or parturition of the baby. So now let's see the other important gland, which is thyroid gland. So it is situated in the neck in the front of the larynx and trachea. It weighs about 25 gram. It is butterfly in shape, as you can see over here. It has two lobes, right lobe and left lobe, which is connected by a tissue which is known as isthmus, as you can see over here. Now on cross sectioning these lobes, what you will find is there are many follicles, and between the follicles there are septa, which contains blood vessels, and a parafollicular cells, which secretes calcitonin. Now these follicles are lined by the cuboidal epithelium, and in the center there is a colloid which contains iodinated thyroglobulins. Now, let's see the hormones which are secreted by the thyroid gland. So, the first is triiodothyroidinin, which is T3, which has its effect on the physiological process in the body, like growth and development, metabolism, body temperature, and heart rate. And thyroxine, which is T4, which controls development and maturation. So, if there is a deficiency of thyroxine, which results in delayed development. The third hormone which is secreted is calcitonin. It's a hormone which is secreted by C cells or parafollicular cells, which is present in between the follicles. It Its main action is to increase bone calcium and to decrease blood calcium levels. Now let's see the disease related to thyroid gland. So first one is goiter. So any enlargement of thyroid gland is called as goiter, which is caused by iodine deficiency. So the features which we see is swelling in the neck, breathing difficulties. This is because it exerts pressure on trachea, cough, hoarseness, and swallowing difficulties. Now, second disorder is hypothyroidism, which is characterized by which results due to reduced circulatory levels of T3 and T4. So, the features which we see are goiter, puffiness of the face, periorbital swelling, loss of scalpel hairs, drooping of the upper eyelid, as you can see over here, and dry, thickening, rough and yellow skin. Now there are two types. One is cretinism and second is myxedema. Cretinism is the hypothyroidism or hyposecretion which occurs in infants, and myxedema is the hyposecretion which occurs in adults. Now the third type, which is hyperthyroidism, which is also known as Graves' disease. It is a condition resulting from increasing circulatory levels of T3 and T4. So the changes which we see are increased metabolic rate, sensitiveness increases, swelling, sweating, flushing, rapid respiration, bulging of the eyelids, as you can see over here, and affects various physiological activities. Now further, let's see what is parathyroid glands. So it secretes a hormone which is known as parathyroid hormone that regulates serum calcium concentration. So parathyroid gland is situated behind the thyroid glands. As you can see, this is a thyroid gland. Backside of the thyroid gland, there are four glands, parathyroid glands, two superiorly situated and two inferiorly situated. It draws calcium from the bones, increases calcium absorption from the digestive tract, and reduces loss of calcium in urine. So basically it increases the blood calcium level. So the concentration of calcium in blood is maintained by calcitonin and parathyroid hormone, which we saw earlier. They have an opposite action. So this calcitonin decreases the blood calcium level and parathyroid hormone increases the blood calcium level. Now, what are the diseases related to parathyroid hormone? So there is something which is known as hypoparathyroid hormone, which leads to tetany, and hyperparathyroidism, which causes softening, bending and fracture of the bones, which leads to osteoporosis because more calcium is withdrawal from the bones and it increases the blood calcium levels. Moving on to the another gland, which is adrenal glands. So there are two adrenal glands which are situated on the on the upper surface of the kidney. So this is kidney, and above there is right adrenal gland and there is left adrenal gland. So they are 4 centimeter long and 3 centimeter thick. It is divided into two parts: the outer part, which is known as cortex, and the inner part, which is known as medulla. Now the cortex secretes three main hormones, that is glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids and sex hormone, which is adrenogens. Now the glucocorticoids is secreted from the middle layer, which is known as zona fasciculata. Mineralocorticoid is secreted from the upper layer, which is known as zona glomerulosa, and the sex hormone, which is secreted by the inner layer of the cortex, which is zona reticularis. So the main hormone of the glucocorticoid is known as cortisol. Mineralocorticoids is adrenosterone, aldosterone, and the sex hormone, which is testosterone and estrogen. And the medulla secretes another two hormone, which is known as epinephrine and non-epinephrine. Now let's see the function of glucocorticoids. So the glucocorticoids have function of leuconeogenesis, that is formation of sugar, and lipolysis, that is breakdown of triglycerides into fatty acids and glycerol for energy production. Now what are the other effects of glucocorticoids? So they have an anti-inflammatory action. That means if there is an inflammation over here, These glucocorticoids come over here and they stop the inflammatory reaction. They suppresses the immune response, suppresses the response to tissue to injury. That means that if there is a pain and if glucocorticoids come over there or they're injected, they lead to the pain is not felt and they delayed the wound healing. Okay, now these are the functions or side effects of glucocorticoids. Now moving on to the mineralocorticoids, which is aldosterone. So aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoid. It maintains water and electrolyte balance. That means it balances salt water balance, blood pressure and blood volume by acting on the kidneys. Now the third hormone, main important hormone, is the sex hormone, which is androgens are the main sex hormone. They contribute to the onset of puberty. So androgens, which in female they act on ovary to produce estrogen and progesterone, and in males it acts on testes to produce testosterone. Now let's see the disorders of adrenal cortex. So first is Cushing syndrome. So it is caused by hypersecretion of glucocorticoids. So this leads to high blood sugar level, rise in blood pressure, obesity and wasting of the limbs. As you can see, there is obesity and there is thinning of the limbs. Addison's disease, this is due to the hyposecretion of glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids, so which is caused by an autoimmune disease. So this leads to muscle weakness, vomiting and diarrhea, tiredness, mental confusion, low blood volume, hypotension and loss of body hairs in women. So as you can see over here, the patient becomes weak, thin. Now let's see adrenal medulla. So it is surrounded by the cortex, okay, and it secretes two hormone, epinephrine and non-epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline and non-adrenaline. Adrenaline is an emergency hormone. So for example, if you see a lion and the hormone which is released in your body is known as adrenaline, which helps in flight, fight and fright, and non-adrenaline which regulates the blood pressure. Moving on to the another gland, which is pancreas. So the pancreas are consist of two parts, exocrine and also endocrine. So the endocrine cells are known as islets of Langerhans, and they are made up of four types of cells: delta cells, beta cells, alpha cells and F cells. Now delta cell secretes somatostatin, beta cell secretes insulin, alpha cell secretes glucagon and F cell secretes pancreatic polypeptides. Now the first hormone, which is insulin, which is secreted by the pancreas. So it has its effect on carbohydrate metabolism. So insulin increases the glucose entry into the most of the body cells. So as you can see over here, this is the glucose. In presence of insulin, this glucose enter into the cell. So it produces hypoglycemia. That means it decreases the blood glucose level, and it also has its function of glycogenesis. That means glucose is converted into glycogen in the liver. The second hormone which comes is glucagon. So glucagon acts mostly on the liver and adipose tissue. Adipose tissues are fat tissues, which is antagonists the action of insulin. That means that if insulin is producing hypoglycemia, this glucagon will increase the blood glucose level. That means it will create hyperglycemia, and it stimulates glycogenolysis. That means the glycogen which is formed, it will be broken into glucose by glycogen. So it increases blood glucose level. Now the third hormone, which was somatostatin, which was secreted by the beta cells, delta cells. So this inhibits glucagon and insulin. Now the disease related to insulin is diabetes mellitus. So it is a group of metabolic disorder in which there is high blood sugar level over a long period of time. So this happens because there is decrease in insulin. So what are the symptoms which leads to high blood sugar level is frequent urination, increases thirst and increases the hunger. Now there are of two types, insulin type 1 and insulin type 2. Moving on to the another gland which is thymus, which is prominent at birth. That means it is present at birth but gets atrophied in adults. That means in adult they are not present. They get destroyed or they get atrophied. Now what is the function? To initiate and maintain T lymphocytes. So the lymphocyte which comes in hypothalamus, they get converted into T lymphocyte. It also secretes B lymphocyte till some extent. So it requires in the development of T lymphocyte for cell mediated immunity. Thank you. Hope you like this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe and share your views in the comment section below. Till then, bye.